It's time now for the KC Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's KC Ingram.
Tired of lines at the boat launch, sun damage, or not using your boat because of the hassle? Call Meridian Marina and Yacht Club because we do all the work so you can enjoy your boating lifestyle. We store your boat inside, launch it with a wash with just 30 minutes notice, and rinse it down before putting it back. Need new electronics, service, detailing, bottom paint? No problem. Our experienced certified techs will make sure your boat is in tip-top shape and ready to head to the sandbar, fishing, or the Bahamas. Call us up at 772-221-8198. That's 221-8198, or visit us online at meridianmarina.com. Well, good evening, Stuart. And boy, the weather has been absolutely beautiful here lately. Oh, it's just been perfect. And but in the studio this evening, we have one of the very newest South Florida Water Management District board members, Jackie Thurlow-Lippisch. So, Jackie, thank you for once again returning and joining us in the studio and telling us about this new endeavor.
It's great to be here. Usually I've been here for River Kids, and now I'm here for the South Florida Water Management District, and I'm so excited to be here, Casey.
Always about making our water better.
Yes.
And trying to stop discharges and stop the pollution coming into it.
Thank you for having me today.
Well, it is absolutely my pleasure. And as I said earlier, if you've seen aerial photos, more than likely they came from Jackie and her husband, Ed, flying over the river, taking so many photos that have really gained national attention. And it shows when the discharges happen, how far it goes out into the ocean and flows down past Jupiter Island. And without those visuals, people don't exactly get the concept of how nasty that water really is that comes out.
Absolutely.
So you were appointed by Governor DeSantis to the South Florida Water Management District. You're on the governing board now. Very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We have somebody right here in our Martin County that has really been studying these issues for so long. I want to mention right first on top of the show here, you have a blog.
Yes.
And you've been doing this blog for quite a few years now.
I know it's going on like 6 years. Can you believe it?
6 years. That's incredible. It's so about any kind of story, and you talk a lot about history as well. It's a very fascinating blog to follow. So, just Jackie Thurlow-Lippisch is at JackieThurlowLippisch.com.
Yes, it is.
And I encourage you, if you haven't seen her blog, please do so.
Thank you.
So, Jackie, now that you're on the governing board, tell us, a little bit about. You've been to a meeting or two. You've been sworn in. What's it feel like? What?
It's amazing. I'm very excited. We've had one meeting, and I have to say, I did not, in my past, I've tried to achieve things by running for office, where you're like totally focused and everything you do is about that. And this opportunity came to me in a very different way. I wasn't shooting for it. I would have supported anyone who was put in this position. By the governor, absolutely. And I support those who've been in this position before. It's a very difficult position. However, when I realized that I might have a chance to have it myself, I applied.
Wonderful.
I applied.
Yes.
And it was a very different kind of thing because I wasn't in control the way that you are, like you're running your election.
Right.
I'm in control of how much I get out there. It wasn't like if I called the governor's office anymore, I was going to get it. In fact, if I did that, I probably wouldn't get it. So I had to be very patient and, pray a lot and walk a lot, and also say, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm still going to be right there doing what I always do with everybody else who cares about the St. Lucie River. And so it's kind of like a dream. I'll be honest with you. It's amazing. I am super excited, and I am going to apply myself 100% through studying and meeting people and trying to build, I find that just like with the photographs,
yes,
through awareness, it comes. I don't have to beat people over the head to believe like me.
Right.
That's not right anyway. Everybody wants their story to be told. Those around the edge of Lake Okeechobee want their story to be told.
Right.
The people in Palm Beach County want their story to be told. Miami, Broward, Monroe, St. Lucie County, and my seat, as it was for the others that served before me, Mr. Brandon Tucker and Kevin Powers most recently.
Right.
This is an at-large seat. So I'm not just representing Martin County. I'm representing everybody, but my focus by state statute is the East Coast. So from St. Lucie County to Monroe County. So I have my mom helping me out and taking out the old history books and looking at the original canals, looking at the things that they were so excited about, some of the things that have gone wrong or haywire.
Right.
And I look forward to continuing to raise awareness to make Florida a healthier, safer place for all of us.
And we're behind you, Jackie, and wish you all the luck and hope that we really see some great changes here in the next 4 to 5 years. And I know it's a long-term, we all know it's been very long-term solutions, but having a different board and a different perhaps outlook on the water issues, I think a fresh set of eyes is absolutely wonderful. So
great.
We are so glad that you're there. And I just want to remind everybody, this board position, it is extremely demanding. It can be divisive, and it is volunteer. And I always think about that with the board members, is it's a tremendous amount on your shoulders, and it's volunteer. So,
sure.
And you had a little bit of experience already being appointed to the CRC, or Constitution Revision Commission.
Yes.
And that was through at that time Senate President Joe Negron. So you bring a lot of experience to the table, as well as being mayor of Sewell Point at one point. So you really bring a lot of experience to the table, and it's going to be exciting to follow. I thought about you last week when we had so much rain, and then there was some discharges that were starting, here to the St. Lucie River already. As a board member now, you probably haven't been in the position very long, but you may see some information we didn't see before. How did that impact you to see those discharges coming already this year?
I knew they were coming. And, I have always been on this call. Not always, but it's been for 8 years. I've been on this Army Corps of Engineers call that's called the Periodic Scientist Call.
Okay.
And it happens once a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on conditions. And all of the quote unquote stakeholders are on that call.
Okay.
People from all of the 16 counties, also people from the district, the Army Corps, and they're going through the process of taking information to decide where they're going to go with things. But in the end, the Army Corps is the most powerful entity, as they always are, with the Central and South Florida Water Plan. And I knew what was going on, basically a month ahead of time, because they started talking about it in a way that made you feel like, oh my gosh, they're going to start dumping.
Already.
No, what I was very happy about, and what ameliorated my dismay, not completely, but a lot, was that they started communicating in a different way. They started saying, the new gentleman, his name is Colonel Kelly. So Colonel Kelly is saying, we are lowering the lake because we want to make sure that there is enough room in the lake when the rains come in June. So we are going to try to get it down to a level that allows that. And so they were releasing Caloosahatchee, St. Lucie, and also, Lake Worth Lagoon. Okay. Lake Worth Lagoon, which is Palm Beach County, right by President Trump's house.
Right.
And also sending water south into the EAA for irrigation, and also trying to get it down to Everglades National Park, and then some of it, being wasted to tide. But I felt like that was huge. And I think we have to, I think we do have to recognize that the problem we have is not just an operations problem, it's a cultural problem. We have a cultural problem with admitting that we really have some problems going on with our system. And the Army Corps is not one to open up very much about what they're thinking. It's military. They change them out every 3 years. They're cold. They're calculated. They're very good at what they do. But for them to start talking I was like, maybe this is the beginning of something different. And mind you, of course, not everybody was happy, but they started talking about why they were making that move. And, I felt like that was really a good thing.
Well, and they're actually looking to review the LORS, the alkaline
Yes.
LOSM schedule, the Lake Okeechobee regulation schedule. So they had some meetings here in Stewart, and they were in Key West. They were on the other side of the state. They were all over. I know the one here in Stewart, there was 2 meetings. They were absolutely packed, and saw you there briefly.
Yes.
I didn't get a chance to speak that day. There were so many people, which was great.
It was. They had to like open up another room.
Huge. So they are looking at that regulation schedule, and that means when and how far they can lower the lake and how much water they can keep in the lake. Jackie, as we went to that meeting, I know Bull Sugar has the goal, no discharges. Do you see that happening?
I think it's a good goal. And, it's the goal of Bull Sugar. It's the goal of Congressman Brian Mast. It's the goal of all of us. Nonetheless, I think one has to look at the system and realize that that's not something that's going to happen overnight. So if 0 discharges is the goal, and that would be my goal too,
right.
But we have to be honest in communicating with our children and with everybody that right now, that's almost impossible to achieve if you get a huge, huge water event. But that's the goal. The goal is to rework the system so that more water is going south, more water is being utilized, more water is being held on the land. So yes, it's a good goal. It's kind of like, not to be flippant in any way, but like I would love to weigh 105 pounds again, like I did when I was in high school.
Right.
But let's face it, I could weigh that much again, but it would take a lot of work, and it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
But I could achieve it. I could
Right.
definitely achieve it. But there's a difference between being 18 and being 55.
That's right.
And there's a difference with when I look at the old, it's incredible. The old military maps of the state of Florida when they're not kidding when they say we drain the swamp. It's unbelievable. And Casey, there was a swamp in Vero. There was a swamp in Port St. Lucie. It was, totally, what was it called? The Alapatioke. I mean, it was a total swamp. Like you see it on the old maps, water, alligators, the whole thing.
This isn't just draining South Florida. We drained a lot of the coast.
And all that water was going south. And what's so interesting too is this is where I think they really need to put more emphasis. And I don't know if I'll be able to ever do this because I'm not an engineer, but there are natural ridges throughout the state of Florida that God set up, so the water flowed a certain way. And over time, and when we took dynamite, we blew up the ridges, we blew up the rapids, we changed the way that we're like, we want this water to go north, we want this water to go south. I think we've got a pretty good template if we just looked at how it really was originally and try to not go back to where we were, but respect nature instead of always trying to change it. Because when storms come and everything, it does better if you're keeping it in line with how it wants to be and not trying to make it be something too totally different.
It is.
So, I have the utmost respect for Congressman Mast and for Bull Sugar, and I will hold up a sign too that says 0 discharges. Nonetheless, we have to know that is a long-term goal.
I was on the South Florida Water Management District website today, and I was looking at the capacity of the treatment areas, storm treatment areas south. I mean, they're already full, a lot of those storm treatment areas. So even right now, if we wanted to discharge just to the south, we're not able to because the system fills up. So it's a big task.
One thing I think they can do, and this was one of the things that was asked at the one board meeting that we've had, was again, open communication, transparency. And that was one of the main things that Governor DeSantis noted had to happen in his Executive Order 1912. And if anyone hasn't read it, I recommend to just look it up online because it's remarkable to read this executive order. And transparency was a huge portion of that. You know, we don't talk about a lot. We're always just talking about like the St. Lucie River and the Caloosahatchee, but there's a number of other canals. And which ones do the Army Corps run? Which ones do they run? And which ones do the South Florida Water Management run? And some of those canals in the South that are right at the very base of the system, they're controlled by the Army Corps. So it's kind of like the South Florida Water Management District is controlling the canals that are between the southern part of Lake Okeechobee and then right above Everglades National Park. And that's because of the Central and South Florida plan, and because the plan was set up for the EAA, for agriculture, for them to water that and to make sure there was enough there for their crops and for the cities and everything. Nonetheless, there are areas in the South that can be opened up even more. They've opened up Tamiami Trail. There's three, it's so hard with all the numbers. Think of 333. If you go online and you look up canal and structure 333, right in that area, they all know it. There is more that could be opened up and less that could be sent to tide.
Which, how wonderful would that be? We always say it's such a shame that we're putting all this fresh water out through the St. Lucie River out to the ocean, and it's truly a waste, and it hurts our estuary.
I know you've got to move on, but I find it very, words are important. Yes. Communication is important. And you always hear like, move the water south, move the water south. Okay. What's that mean? Move the water south, like where? Like out to the ocean or like where? So now I believe they're going to start, talking to us like where it's going south. Are we wasting this precious resource that's like gold out to the ocean? Or is it finally, praise the Lord, getting to Everglades National Park so it can filter down into those areas and hopefully parts of Florida Bay? They never tell us how much water makes it to the finish line.
Right.
How much water makes it to the finish line? The finish line is Everglades National Park and Florida Bay. Okay. That is something that we need to know. And then I think as people understand that concept, the public will start pushing the way that they have been. Like our whole movement was about people understanding and being passionate, and then getting under the skin of these politicians, and things will start to move. We are not living in 1948.
No, we certainly aren't.
We are not living in 1948.
And the population has so changed. The whole state of Florida has changed so greatly since 1948. And it's a whole different...
They're managing it for 1948. And people have rights, and they will get their water that they, will has been determined by law. But at the same time, just picture like if we were running a school. I was a teacher. How it was in 1948. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You'd be in jail.
Right.
For some of the things, desegregation, whatever. I mean, we cannot function that way anymore. We have to rethink in a modern world. We have how we can take what we have and not in a day go to zero, but over time, absolutely make that the goal.
So I'll have to ask you this. I think I already know the answer, but I'm not going to assume. How do you feel about ASR's aquifer storage wells, the reserve wells?
I don't support it. And the main reason why I don't, believe it or not, I did a lot of research on that. And it's, first of all, it's kind of like saying, I can't even think of something right now. They do it. It's being done all over the state. It's disgusting.
It is.
We put our half-treated sewage down as far as we can into the Boulder zone, which is right under the water aquifer in some cases. And they say, oh, it's safe. It's safe. Don't worry about it. It's safe. Maybe it is, but I don't think in all cases, even Brian LaPointe, who is controversial for some of the people that are like the hardcore St. Lucie River people, he did studies on that back with Florida Bay, and some of them do leak, so you can't say, oh, they never leak. Yes, there's new technology. It's just like a new drug. It might be really great for some people, but in some conditions, it might not work out like you thought it did. And what really hit me was when I went to this Florida Springs conference, and they had the cave divers down there, and they had people who were diving in caves, in the middle of the state. And these were like the hardcore. I mean, these guys were tough. They were going as far as they could south and as far as they could north, and they were tracking for National Geographic or whatever. And they started saying that, oh no, if anybody tells you that sometimes that stuff doesn't leak, they're wrong, because we have seen it over the past 20 years. And I thought, now that's a really good source. And also it's precious. One day water will be more valuable than gold. And if they know that we were throwing it away and polluting the system at the same time, I think our great grandchildren will be disappointed in us. On the other hand, I commend the board members of the South Florida Water Management District for trying to do something. And in some people's opinion, that would work. In mine, there are better ways to approach that. It just shows how dire the situation is, that they were thinking about doing that. We're desperate. We are desperate. We don't want toxic algae in our waterways, killing our dogs, possibly hurting our children, wrecking our property values and our summers. I memean, we've been without a summer, on and off for like 8 years.
We have, and an article just came out this past week that the dolphin that were dying actually have like a form of dementia. That they lost so many dolphins last year.
Isn't that insane? Just like,
and it's been a
so
cyanobacteria.
I
mean, it's right. It is.
Right.
It's very frightening, and they're saying it can travel through the air, a good,
absolutely,
for a mile or more. So it's a frightening,
yes,
proposition that we have to deal with right now, and I can see making dire decisions.
Right, trying to
Human
do
health and life.
something, but I think there will be other ways for that, especially too because it's so valuable.
What are your goals, and what do you see envisioning to help stop the discharges? Not ASRs. I know we're trying to get SB 10 built, Senator Negron.
Right.
Thank you. What else can be done?
Well, the main thing I always say to people is I'm just one person, and I've worked on boards before. I was on, I was the mayor of the town of Souls Point. I was on the Constitution Revision Commission, and you don't do any of these things by yourself.
Right.
Okay. So the only thing you're ever going to be able to do is if a majority of the board feels strongly about it. So, I don't kid myself by going out and acting like I'm going to decide what we're going to do. It's going to be decided together. I think it will be a combination of focusing intensely on the LOSUM schedule. And yes, probably trying to get, look at if it's possible to have the lake stage somewhat lower. I don't think, some of the numbers are freaking people out and they're rebelling. But the thought itself, if it's within, like when they did the first one, it was a different time in history with the amount of rain and the conditions. And so the Army Corps is not going to do something that would be dangerous. They won't, but they will take everything into account. And would it be possible to hold it a little bit lower just at that time of year? I think that, I'm a governor appointee. I recognize I'm no longer like Jackie Thurlow Lippish, total independent. I won because I ran so hard and I got people to support me. Now I'm an appointee. Right. And so I must follow this 1912. And what the governor wants is that EAA reservoir built, expedited. And I feel good about that because I fought with Joe Negron for that, as so many of us did, and that we're going to have our hands full with that. But that is the goal. That is the goal. And I think it's kind of like a card game, when one falls, then they all fall. If we can get that one project up and running, perfect or imperfect, but get it going, that will be the beginning of this cultural shift of sending water south.
Can you tell us where SB 10 stands today?
Sure, absolutely.
In 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, you have to, it's really cool. You have to know where it's located so you can know where it stands. So like if you're driving south of Lake Okeechobee and you get on Highway 27, which is the big one that takes you all the way down, I think, to Fort Lauderdale. But when you get to about where you're looking at a map and there's like a bend, in those canals for them to head east, that is where the reservoir is to be.
Okay.
And there's this giant triangle that's called A1. Okay. The A1 flow equalization basin. And you'll always see it. Like if you're on Google Map, you can't miss this thing.
Okay.
And that's A1. And then A2 is to the left.
Okay.
And it's this huge rectangle piece of land. And that is where the reservoir is supposed to be.
Okay.
And you can see when you look at the map how much sense it makes as far as the location.
Okay.
And right now it is being leased as sugarland because the former board extended those leases.
Okay.
And so you would fly by and it would just be like, oh, wow, it looks like agriculture. But you could still see that giant rectangle. And I am not at liberty to say where that's going because nothing's happened yet.
Okay.
But I can tell you, if the goal of the governor is to expedite that thing, they're going to move mountains to make it happen.
That is very good news. Very good news. Jackie Thorlipish, good luck in your tenure. We're going to be pulling for you. I'm going to have you back for updates. I'd love to hear what's going on.
I'm so excited to be here. And you and I are old friends.
We are. Jackie and I go way back. We go Washington, D.C. That's how I met Jackie.
In the train. I mean,
so many
everything
things here.
That you have led, your great successes. I am so happy to be here.
Same to you, Jackie. Thank you. We'll be back next week. We're going to have Alex Gillen back from Bull Sugar. And we are